Hey guys, I'm Abby and this is my channel, and today I'm going to go over the books I've read in the first quarter of this year, 2020. I did set a goal this year to read 36 books. I'm keeping up with that schedule, but it has been hard throughout the month of March. We are coming to the end. There's been a lot going on just in the world with the whole coronavirus and everything. I hope you guys are staying healthy and washing your hands. But I haven't got to read as much. I was sick myself, not with corona, but I stayed home and basically slept all day. Most people think, oh, you're sick, you can stay home and read. Not for me. I watch bad TV and I sleep constantly when I'm sick. So the month of March, I haven't been able to do as much reading, but today I'm going to go over the books I read in January and February, and the ones I'm still currently reading that I hope to finish within March, and then the one I have finished within March. I guess I'll start with the books I read in January, starting with my first book that I finished, which is actually an ebook. I've read more ebooks than I have in the past lately, and I'm really enjoying it. And the first book I finished, which actually started in late 2019, is The Song of Achilles. I'm just showing it on my iPad here, by Madeline Miller. And I've been wanting to read this and her other book, Circe, for a while. I haven't gotten around to Circe yet, but I really enjoyed Song of Achilles. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really like Greek mythology, and this is all about the Trojan War and kind of Achilles. But the main character is Pericles, who's Achilles' friend and lover in this book. But it was a great retelling. You can tell she does a lot of studying the Greek mythology and of the Trojan War to add actual facts of what happened within the story. So it's really great retelling. If you like Greek mythology, you might enjoy this. But it was pretty light read. It only took me maybe a week to read, with taking a break in between. But I think I finished this like January 2nd. So it was the first book I finished within January, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope to read some of her other books pretty soon. This second book I finished in January was a lot lighter read. It's kind of a almost children's story book. They're a little long, maybe like young teens stories, but I read it just kind of at night to relax before I went to bed, and that is Nordic Tales. It's a nice illustrated edition. It's folk tales from Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and Denmark, and it has nice pictures in it. They're very fun stories, tales from those parts of the countries. They have little drawings within them, but the stories can be longer, so I wouldn't say it's a children's book, but maybe a teen, young adult. I did end up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I did really like them. I thought about going down to 3, but I did enjoy them for the most part, and it was a pretty simple read to get through, and I didn't dislike them. So they are fun little stories from this part of the world, and if you have any interest in them, I would definitely recommend it. But I remember when I first picked this up, I thought it would be more about like the Nordic gods, Nordic Tales of the gods, but it's not like that. They're not mentioned at all, so don't expect that. I do have a video talking about other books that mention the Nordic gods and all about them. I will link that if you're interested in it. It talks about those books that I read that are about the Nordic gods. But this was definitely a different take on tales from the Nordic countries, and they're from people, told by people who are from the area and they know the tales, so they're really great. I definitely recommend it. The third book I finished, I had been wanting to read for a while. My mom read it and loved it. I've heard many people rave about it. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's been on it for over 100 weeks. A very known book now, but it was also one of my 12 books that I picked to read for the year of 2020. I did a whole video on it showing the 12 books I picked from my bookshelves to read this year. And the first one I picked to read was Educated by Tara Westover. And I think I gave this a 5 out of 5 because it was so interesting and captivating. And I totally understand why so many people are raving about it. Kind of a crazy tale that is real from her memories, but it's so interesting to hear about this different kind of life within the US, and there's probably things like this going on in a lot more places, but I can't recommend this enough. I know why people, you know, are recommending it, raving about it. It's so interesting, and after I finished reading it, I did like a little more research of just what people have said, reviews and everything, and I still recommend this book very highly. And the last book I read in January was actually a romance book that I was recommended from my friend who's really into romance. I actually asked her for recommendations, and this is the one she gave me, was like the top one that she recommended. So I read it. I kind of wanted to get, you know, the feel of, it was towards the end of January, so I wanted to get in the feel of like Valentine's Day and love, and so I read a romance book, which I read every once in a while, just kind of like their lighter reads, and you know what's gonna happen. So they're kind of easy to, you know, fly through within like a day or two. And the one I read was Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase. This is quite the cover for it, but definitely a romance novel. I think it was written a while ago, but it's still very like progressive on the women's side of romance novels. If you have ever read romance novels, they can definitely be men heavy. This really does show like a stronger woman within the lead, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite romance novel that I read, but I really did like it, and I will probably read some of her other works eventually, maybe not soon, but because I don't read that many romance novels, but I did enjoy it, and I will look to read some of her other work. So moving on to the month of February, I finished 3 books, and 2 of them were also electronic ebooks instead of physical books, and I think I'll go over those first. So the first one I finished was written by a fellow YouTuber that I enjoy watching, and her name is Hannah Witten, and her book is called Doing It. It's all about sex and sexual orientation and everything. It has a lot of great information. I think I bought it because she was having a sale on her ebook, and so I knew I wanted to read it just because I like her personality and she knows a lot of information. I thought it'd just be good to read and learn. It's kind of more informational learning book than just a fun read. But her personality really does come through the book and her writing, and then also it just has a lot of great information about sex and orientation, like a lot that I didn't know about or didn't understand as much. It's kind of a little clearer. So if you have any interest in that topic, or if you just want to learn more, I think she targeted it as like young teens, you know, just going through puberty and up. So that's kind of like the age range she was aiming for writing this book. Mostly just a learning platform, but I really enjoyed it. If you want to learn anything about those topics, I definitely recommend checking it out. Her books, she has another book too, but also on her channel she has a lot of videos about it. And the second ebook I finished within February, and the last one I've read currently up till now is Dumpling. It was super cute. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I read it very quickly. I was much more surprised at how much I would like it. It was very cute, very kind of like uplifting. It is made into a Netflix movie. I haven't watched it yet, but I do plan on doing that sometime. And then she has a sequel. Don't remember the name of it, but I do plan on reading it. And it is by Julie Murphy. I think she has a couple other books written besides this one and the sequel to it. I might check those out, but it was a really cute novel, and I liked the main character and kind of her love interest. It was really, there is one, and I would definitely recommend it to people who want like a lighter read that's really cute and funny. I laughed a lot more than I thought I would within this book, but it was great. And yeah. And then the last book I finished in February, which is actually a physical book, and is a book that is widely known, is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I didn't read this before. I was supposed to read it in school, but I think I just skimmed it, got the point, and didn't come back to it. But this is one of my sister's favorite books, and is actually the book we read for my family book club. My mom, my sisters, and I have a book club that we started this year, and this was the first book we read. We eventually want to go see the Broadway play of it, or when it comes here to Dallas, we're gonna go see it, which is not until 2021, so who knows. But I really enjoyed it. I don't know why I wasn't super into it in school, in high school, when we had to read it. Maybe it's because I was forced to read it, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5. I understand why it's my sister's favorite book now, and it's definitely something I would probably read again. I went to school in Alabama, where Harper Lee went and grew up, and it's all about Alabama, so some of these things. So having experience living in Alabama, and unfortunately some of these things that are mentioned in this book kind of still there. Not as much, obviously, but you know, knowing these places that they talked about and kind of the stigmas throughout this book, just being in the south of the US. I think I related it to a little more to my current life after living in Alabama for a bit, but I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would, and I definitely would recommend it to someone if they want to read more classic American novels. This would be now more on the top of my list, besides my limited knowledge I knew in high school when I was supposed to read it. So yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird, would definitely recommend. So now I'm gonna go over the books I've read in March, and most of them I'm still currently reading. There is one I have finished that I started in February, but you know, as I said at the beginning of this video, March has been a crazy month, and I'm still like up to date with reading my 36 per year, like on the kind of time schedule of reading. But it's definitely been a lot slower within March with my reading. But the first book I finished was one of my other 12 that I mentioned in my video that I was going to read in 2020. I guess technically it was my February pick. I just finished it in March. But it's My Absolute Darling by Gabrielle Talent. I think I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. There were moments that I really liked this book, but there were also kind of there are a lot of hard topics to kind of read about and deal with within this novel. It's about I think 15-year-old girl and her and her dad growing up, and he has a very different way of being an adult and very abusive. So it was a hard book to read at sometimes with the abuse, and there was a lot of neglect, and there's a lot of guns and violence within this book. So it's kind of hard to get through just not really relating to or liking the characters, just their actions that they do. But I think there are some really good points within this novel. I don't know if I would technically recommend it, but it's really kind of confounding me. Like, I liked it, but then I didn't like it. So I go back and forth, but this is the book I have finished in the month of March so far. I hope to finish a couple before the end of the month, but as now recording this video, I have a couple that I'm currently reading, and this is the only one that I finished so far. So now I'm gonna go over the books I haven't finished, but I'm hoping to finish in March, or that I'm just reading slowly, and just as far as I've gotten through March. So the first book I'm gonna mention is the second book of my family book club that I mentioned, We did To Kill a Mockingbird first, and we're about halfway through our second book. I don't know if I'll finish it within March or not, but it's called The Nest. And we picked this book basically because I and one of my sisters already owned it, so the other two just had to go buy it. But it's very interesting, and it's funny because there's 4 of us in this book club, and on To Kill a Mockingbird, 2 of us were like always ahead. And then on this one, the other opposite 2 are completely ahead of the 2, including myself, who just kind of read it right before we're supposed to be done reading it. But I actually do really like this book so far. I just haven't had time to read it or keep up to date with what I'm supposed to read by the meetings we have. I think it's on trajectory for, by the end I'll probably give it like a 4 out of 5. It does skip around a lot, which is sometimes confusing, but I do like the story so far. I am right at halfway. If you can see that, there's my bookmark. It's like right at halfway. I think I'm chapter 20 or 21, sorry. But I have really enjoyed this book, even though I haven't been so, I guess, insistent upon reading it. That's just because I started it late February, early March, which was a really busy time. I just haven't had time. Been sick with all the stuff going on with the virus and everything. But I really do enjoy this book so far, but it's one of the ones I haven't finished yet in March, but I am reading. And the second book I'm still reading, I started within March, is Celtic Tales. I mentioned Nordic Tales earlier, so this is by the same, I think, like, publisher. Very similar, has tales from, but these are from Ireland, Scotland, Brittany, and Wales. So a little bit different area, somewhat same, but completely different tales. They also have the illustrated things in it, but I'm not too far on this one, maybe like a quarter, 30% way through, but I am liking it. I don't know, I gave the other one 4 out of 5 stars. I might give that one to this too. But the other one I was debating between 3 or 4. I think this is more a solid 4 than the other one was. So if you think the Nordic Tales was maybe on your list of might want to try, I would maybe recommend this one a little more. I've enjoyed it a little more. Maybe the tales are just more suited to what I like. But they are very good little books. And I've been reading this kind of at night when I have time or feel like it. Just some light reading before I go to sleep. And the last book I'm gonna mention isn't really, I thought about not mentioning it, but it is a book that it will take me all year to read because it's like a short page or 2 you read every day. It's marked like the February, March. So like today I'll read March, whatever today's date is. I don't know right now. But it's Shakespeare for every day of the year. So every day it has an excerpt or information from Shakespeare writing. I think right now I'm still in like late February, so I'm a little behind on reading this, but I have really enjoyed it just because I really enjoy Shakespeare. It has a nice little bookmark to tell me where I am, but it has like every day an entry. So like here's June 8th and it talks about Henry the IV. And then you go to the next page, it's June 9th. So it's one of those books where there's an entry every day, as the title kind of says, Shakespeare for every day of the year. But I really liked it. I got this for Christmas and actually started reading it before the new year started. And then I had to go, wait, I need to do this on the dates. But obviously I'm behind, so I don't think it really matters. You could read it all in one sitting if you wanted to. But I really like this. It's kind of a nice little dosage, and it like talks about if something happened in those days, like they'd have known plays that was happening during that time period, or certain events within Shakespeare's life happened on that day. I'll mention it in a little excerpt, but I like it, and it's really great. If you like Shakespeare, I definitely recommend it. So those are the books I've read so far this year, or still currently reading. Let me know if you've read any of these. Comment down below if you have any suggestions for what I should read in the future based off those or not. You just have books in general you want to recommend, head on my way. I will look into them. And hopefully the second quarter of the year, leading up to half the year, I can keep on schedule like I am. I'm a little behind on the 12 books I picked for every month of this year, but hopefully I can catch up on that. March has been a little hectic, so hopefully things will calm down in April. We all hope. But give this video a like if you liked any of those books or read any of those books. And I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, if you want to be someone, why not be you? See you guys later. Bye.